Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, September 10, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gen. Before we begin, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea reports around 1,900 new COVID-19 infections on Friday, continuing to linger along the 2,000 mark for the third straight day. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited the mausoleum for his grandfather Kim Il-sung and father Kim Jong-il to mark the 73rd anniversary of the North's founding. And a week after the completed withdrawal of U.S. and international forces from Afghanistan, the first civilian flight has safely departed Kabul's international airport, landing in the Qatari capital of Doha. We begin with the COVID-19 situation. South Korea on Friday reported yet another high number of new COVID-19 cases. While the rest of the nation seems to have been getting some control over the spread, the capital region continues to report concerning numbers of new infections. For more, let's turn to our Kim Do-yeon at the News Center. Do-yeon, give us the details.
Mo-gen, the weekly pattern always has the Friday tallies dipping slightly compared to midweek, but even with the dip, South Korea's daily COVID-19 caseload stands at 1,892, of which all but 35 were locally transmitted. That's down 157 cases from yesterday, but still high for a Friday, as it's 184 cases more than last Friday. It's because the capital region especially is still struggling to try and stem the spread. In fact, despite the decrease nationwide, Seoul City's number is 6 cases more than yesterday. Seoul City alone accounts for around a third of the tally, and if you add the surrounding region as well, the ratio becomes almost 3/4. The authorities have been saying that the point when number of cases starts to fall in the region would mean the peak of the fourth wave, meaning once the spread has been contained in Seoul and its surrounding areas, the country can expect to be close to the end of the fourth wave. Starting Friday, the South Korean government will be supporting the medical fees of those with minor cases of sicknesses that WHO says need close monitoring after COVID-19 vaccination, even if the illness isn't proved to be linked to the jabs. The compensation will be up to 1 million Korean won, or around $850 US. The list includes sicknesses of the nervous system such as Guillain-Barré syndrome. In addition, minor cases of pericarditis and myocarditis, both types of heart inflammation, will be compensated. Severe cases were already on the compensation list. So far, 35 people have received the financial support. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced new vaccine mandates that could affect up to 100 million Americans, or roughly 2/3 of the country's workers. Biden on Thursday unveiled new measures that would require all federal workers and contractors to get vaccinated against COVID-19. He also announced that companies with 100 or more employees should ensure that they're fully vaccinated or provide a negative test once a week. Biden underlined that the measures are necessary as a quarter of the adult population has yet to get a single shot. The U.S. has also doubled fines to $500 US for those violating mask mandates when using public transport. The British medical regulator on Thursday gave the green light to booster shots of Pfizer's and AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccines, saying they're safe and effective. The actual rollout will be determined by the government, as Britain's Joint Committee for Vaccination and Immunization is looking into whether booster shots for the elderly and vulnerable are needed, with planning underway for a booster program that could begin this month. This comes as Italy's medicines agency, AIFA, also approved a third shot for those vulnerable to COVID-19. The group includes the elderly, immunocompromised, or frontline medical workers.
Now, regarding the midnight military parade in Pyongyang to mark the 73rd anniversary of its founding, North Korea state-run media says its leader Kim Jong-un showed his appreciation for the event. Also, he paid tribute to the regime's former leaders. For more on this, our Pae Eun-ji is on the line for us. Eun-ji, tell us about how North Korea is evaluating the parade and how the U.S. is responding to this.
Well, Mo-gen, the North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Friday that Kim Jong-un expressed appreciation for fully demonstrating their power and unity of paramilitary and public security forces. Although Kim did not deliver a speech at the parade, the KCNA said Kim held a photo session with some of those who attended. The U.S. State Department refused to talk more about the military parade, but urged the North to resume dialogue. Asked about it, State Department spokesperson Ned Price said the U.S. is aware of the parade, but Washington has nothing more to say. He added Washington has no hostile intent towards the North, saying the U.S. is ready to resume dialogue anytime, anywhere.
And also to commemorate the 73rd anniversary, we hear the North Korean leader paid tribute to the regime's former leaders, his late grandfather and father. Can you tell us more about that and who accompanied Kim?
Well, to mark the 73rd anniversary of the founding, Kim Jong-un and his wife Lee Seol-ju visited the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, where the bodies of the former leaders lie. He paid tribute to his late grandfather and national founder Kim Il-sung and late father and former leader Kim Jong-il. Lee's public appearance was her first in nearly 4 months. Top officials also accompanied Kim, including Choi Ryong-hae, president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly, and Cho Yong-won, secretary for organizational affairs of the party's Central Committee. But the North Korean leader's sister, Kim Yo-jong, was not seen on any of the footage. That's all I have for now at this hour. Back to you, Mogyeon.
Thank you, Inji, for the report. A U.S.-based think tank says North Korea has been receiving illegal commodity supplies through illicit vessels to avoid international sanctions imposed on the regime for its development of weapons of mass destruction. The Center for Advanced Defense Studies said in its reports released on Thursday that smugglers have been creating fraudulent identities for ships by modifying their physical appearance or broadcasting false position data. The center added that a couple of vessels may have been involved in such smuggling. South Korea's defense chief called for greater efforts to help resolve the confrontation between the two Koreas and establish peace in the region. The remarks were made at a multinational security forum held in the national's capital. Our Kim Ji-yeon brings us the highlights of the Seoul Defense Dialogue.
The opening ceremony for the Seoul Defense Dialogue 2021 was held on Thursday, marking the 10th year of the multinational forum of senior security officials. Due to the pandemic, this year's event is being held in person and online under the theme Borderless Security Crisis and Multilateral Response. South Korea's Defense Minister Seok in his opening remarks emphasized the need to fully resolve the inter-Korean confrontation that has persisted for the past 7 decades and work towards establishing everlasting peace in the region.
The government will work towards the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and establishing systems for peace and restrictions on inter-Korean military armaments via close consultation with the South Korea-US alliance and the international community.
The minister also said the government continues to push forward its Korea Peace Process initiative and the Inter-Korean Comprehensive Military Agreement forged in 2019, and that the military supports diplomatic efforts for denuclearization. A congratulatory message was sent from the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell, who also underscored the combined efforts for the establishment of peace on the peninsula.
On the Korean Peninsula, you can count on the European Union's support on the dismantlement of North Korea's weapons of mass destruction in a peripheral and investable manner. We continue to encourage the full implementation of sanctions, while at the same time we stand ready to lend our experience in finding diplomatic and multilateral solutions. We support international efforts to build sustainable peace and security in Korean Peninsula and in the wider region.
The forum will run for 3 days until Friday, covering Korean Peninsula issues, security in the Asia-Pacific, new infectious diseases, and cybersecurity. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in will hold a virtual summit this afternoon with Mongolian counterpart Odna Hurelsu on Friday afternoon. Seoul's top office said leaders will discuss issues of mutual interest, including COVID-19 and ways to boost cooperation on global affairs. The Blue House said Mongolia is a key partner of the country of South Korea's new northern policy and has supported Seoul over Korean Peninsula affairs. Mongolia is also a member of a Seoul-led regional healthcare initiative. This will be the first summit between the leaders since President Hurelsu was elected last June. Seoul's foreign ministry has expressed deep regrets over Tokyo's changing its textbooks to remove words that show the coercive nature of Japan's wartime sex slavery. This comes after Japanese government approved textbook publishers changing the term military comfort women to apparently whitewash its past atrocities. It also erased the word forced from the phrase forced conscription when describing forced labor victims. Seoul's foreign ministry, citing testimonies of survivors, said that it is an undeniable historical fact that Japan had forced victims against their will. It added that the fact was also proven by Japan itself and the international community, urging Tokyo to show sincerity in resolving the historical issues. A week after the complete withdrawal of U.S. and international forces from Afghanistan, the first evacuation flight carrying civilians has safely departed Kabul's international airport, landing in the Qatari capital of Doha today. The White House welcomed the safe evacuation, saying it was facilitated thanks to cooperation from the Taliban. Kim Hyo-san reports.
The first evacuation flight since the U.S. exit from Afghanistan left Kabul's international airport Thursday local time and has since landed safely in Doha. According to the AFP, there were some 200 passengers, including U.S. citizens and several other Westerners, on the Qatar Airlines flight. Such a large-scale departure comes as the Taliban vowed to cooperate to facilitate the departure of foreign nationals who wish to leave Afghanistan. The White House also welcomed the safe evacuation.
We wanted to note that the Taliban was cooperative in facilitating the departure of these American citizens and legal permanent residents from HKIA. We promised we would get American citizens out. We promised we would get legal permanent residents out. We promised we would get our Afghan partners out. And we promised we'd press the Taliban to get them out. And that's exactly what we did.
While Kabul's airport was seriously damaged in the final days of the U.S. airlift that evacuated tens of thousands of people from the country, Qatari authorities noted that experts from Qatar and Turkey had been dispatched for repair efforts, adding the airport was ready to resume international flights. However, the evacuation news comes as journalists in Afghanistan say they've been seriously tortured by the Taliban.
For about 10 minutes, about 7 or 8 people were beating us as much as they could. They would raise sticks and beat us with all of their strength. After they beat us, they saw that we had passed out. They took us to lock us up in a cell with a few others.
He said this happened while he was at protests in Afghanistan's Panjshir region this week, expressing concern about what this means for journalism in Afghanistan going forward.
When they treat journalists like this, it's possible that journalism will stop in Afghanistan within a few months. It will be destroyed. What we want from the Taliban is for them to be responsible for the security and well-being of journalists.
Other journalists have also complained of assaults since the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, and some women say they've been forbidden from working for media outlets. Kim Hyo-san, Arirang News.
The European Central Bank has kept its monetary policy unchanged, but opted to slow down the pace of net asset purchases in the next 3 months. Min Soo-kyun tells us more.
The European Central Bank has decided to leave its monetary policy unchanged. The Governing Council on Thursday voted to keep the interest rate on the bank's main refinancing operations at 0%, while rates for the marginal lending facility are 0.25% and rates on the deposit facility are 0.5%. It reiterated that the interest rates will remain at the present or lower levels until inflation stabilizes at 2%. The ECB also decided to buy bonds at a moderately lower pace in the next 3 months.
Based on a joint assessment of financing conditions and the inflation outlook, the Governing Council judges that favorable financing conditions can be maintained with a moderately lower pace of net asset purchases under the Pandemic Emergency Purchase Programme than in the previous 2 quarters.
It stressed, however, that the move wasn't a tapering, saying that the size of the net asset purchases under its Pandemic Emergency Purchase Programme was unchanged. The ECB explained it was reducing the pace, not lowering the total amount of support, which is set at 1.85 trillion euros, or about $2.2 trillion US. With the latest decision, this now means that it will be buying less than 80 billion euros, or about $95 billion US of bonds per month, the initial amount it had been purchasing. The European Central Bank also revised up its growth and inflation forecast for this year as the Eurozone economy recovers faster than expected from the pandemic. It raised the growth forecast for this year to 5% and revised up the inflation outlook for 2021 to 2.2%, high above the 1.9% projected in June. Min Suk-hyun, Arirang News.
The U.S. Justice Department is suing the state of Texas over its law that prevents abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Speaking at a press conference on Thursday, attorney Merrick Garland said the state law was clearly unconstitutional as it prevents women from exercising their constitutional rights. He said Washington had the authority and responsibility to ensure no state can deprive women of those rights, adding that the new enacted law was in open defiance of the Constitution. The lawsuit comes after the Supreme Court last week refused to block the legislation from taking effect. China is slowing down approvals of new online games. According to the South China Morning Post on Thursday, the move came after the Chinese authorities summoned industry giants Tencent and NetEase to discuss gaming restrictions on minors. During the meeting, the gaming companies were told to focus less on profit. Being the world's largest gaming market, observers say the slowdown of approvals will have a negative economic impact on overseas companies as well. Recently, Chinese authorities banned under-18s from playing video games for more than 3 hours a week. South Korean cinema chains and film festivals have joined the trend of launching and screening new releases on online platforms like Netflix. Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Over-the-top video services and movie theaters are two contrasting ways to enjoy films. However, theaters and even film festivals are finding ways to collaborate with OTT services by screening content that has already been released online.
One of the country's largest cinema chain, CGV, has decided to showcase Korean films that went straight to Netflix. 7 films, including the sci-fi blockbuster Space Sweepers, are appearing on the big screen.
Around 80 CGV theaters nationwide will show the films until September 12th. Even though these movies have already been released online through streaming platforms, they are proving popular in theaters too.
In 5 days, around 3,000 people came to watch Space Sweepers. OTT services and theaters are projected to cooperate and coexist, with both having their own unique characteristics.
A film festival has broadened its horizons too. This year's Busan International Film Festival has launched a new section called On Screen, screening Netflix and HBO Asia's to-be-released drama series. The section programmer says the idea has a lot of merits.
We believe film festivals need to let talented independent movie directors be able to pave their own way to OTT service platforms. In the long term, we believe that this could be possible, and with this section of the festival as the starting point.
One business expert says that such a cooperation would be a win-win situation for both parties.
It will lead them to playing to their own strengths more. South Korean theatres are some of the best in the world with their 4DX technology. OTT platforms cannot provide such an experience. Films would then be split up into those that are to be released in theatres first and those on OTT platforms first.
Thanks to such collaborations, audiences will be able to enjoy high-quality content in different ways. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The leaves will change color in South Korea slightly later than usual this year, starting at the end of this month at Mount Seoraksan. According to K-Weather, the leaves will start to change color from September 28th, one day later than usual. The autumn leaves can first be seen at Mount Seoraksan in Gangwon-do province, moving south at a speed of around 20 to 25 kilometers a day. Southern regions should see fall foliage between October 12 and the 21st. The peak is generally about 2 weeks after the first autumn leaves appear.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. We start off in Russia, where the Russian Northern Fleet has begun a large-scale military exercise in the Arctic waters on Thursday. Authorities say the drills involve 8,000 soldiers, 460 armored vehicles, 120 aircraft, 40 tanks, as well as 50 warships. In addition, air defense units armed with S-300 and S-400 and Panzer S-1 air defense missiles have also left their garrison and have been deployed to training grounds. The drill is being carried out in the Barents Sea, Kara Sea, and Laptev Sea. Russia says the military drill is part of its mission to protect passage through the Northern Sea route while defending the fleet's garrison and exploring potential combat areas. Over to Hong Kong, where Hong Kong police on Thursday raided the shuttered Tiananmen Museum that houses exhibits commemorating China's deadly crackdown in Tiananmen Square in 1989. The raid came a day after police arrested 4 members of the group that ran the museum. Officers of the newly created National Security Unit were seen carting away documents and exhibits from the museum. Items include the giant logo of the museum, a paper model of the Goddess of Democracy, which was a symbol of the 1989 pro-democracy movement. Items confiscated also include photos of the huge annual candlelight vigils Hong Kongers host for the victims of the Tiananmen Square massacre. The museum is just the latest target of a sweeping national security law that Beijing imposed on Hong Kong last year to quash dissent after massive pro-democracy protests. The Hong Kong Alliance in Support of Patriotic Democratic Movements of China, or the Alliance for short, ran the shuttered museum. The police have ordered the Alliance to hand over financial and operational details, including personal details of all its members since its founding in 1989. And finishing things off, Sotheby's on Thursday announced the sale of a private modern and contemporary art collection featuring some of the greatest artists in history, valued at more than $600 million. The auction house says the value was the highest estimate ever placed on any collection to come to auction. Real estate mogul Harry McClough and his wife Linda acquired the collection over the course of their decades-long marriage before their 2018 divorce trial forced them to sell the collection and split the proceeds. Sotheby's says it would offer the McClough collection at 2 sales. The first auction will feature iconic works from Andy Warhol and Mark Rothko, as well as Cy Twombly. The auction is welcome news for the international art market as it tries to rebound from the COVID-19 pandemic, which has driven down sales by 22% in 2020. 이승재, Arirang News.
Good morning. Those on the south coast and Jeju will need to keep an umbrella handy. Again, rain clouds that formed over the south coast are dropping showers there, and the rain will pick up as the day goes on. And Jeju Island could be seeing up to 120 millimeters, while the south coast will be seeing 5 to 30 millimeters. Meanwhile, western regions, including here in the capital, could also get some light rain during the day. Along with rain and clouds, highs will be a few notches lower today for most areas, and Seoul will be going up to 28 degrees, Daejeon, Jeju at 27 degrees this afternoon. Fine autumn weather returns just in time for the weekend, but Jeju and southern regions will have some rain early next week due to the indirect effect of Typhoon Changtu. Now, the strong typhoon is forecast to make landfall over southern Taiwan in the next few days and could also impact Korea's southern regions by early next week, so we'll need to stay alert. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. I'll be back with our next newscast at noon Korea time. Thank you for watching.